She made $92,000 a year. Marketing manager. Stable job. Good company. From the outside, she had it together. And every Sunday night she'd open her banking app with one eye closed. Not to analyze anything. Not to track anything. Just a quick glance and close it before she could feel whatever was about to come up. She'd been doing that for 3 years. If I don't look too closely, she told me, it doesn't feel real. Here's what hit me about that. She wasn't avoiding the number because she was irresponsible. She was avoiding it because somewhere underneath she already knew what it meant. She just didn't have a name for it yet. Today, we give it a name. If your money disappears faster than you can earn it, not just some months, but consistently, almost predictably, and you genuinely cannot explain where it went, not vaguely, not rent and stuff, but actually explain it, then stay with me. Because in this video, you're going to see your spending in a way you've never seen it before. And once you see it, you won't be able to unsee it. Before we go anywhere, I want to ask something of you. Watch this video more than once this week. I know that sounds like a lot, but here's the honest truth. The first time through, you'll hear me. The second time, you'll start hearing yourself. That's the difference between consuming information and actually using it. One more thing before we dive in. No slides, no graphics, nothing on screen, and that's intentional. Here's why. When your brain sees a visual, it feels satisfied. It thinks it just learned something, files it away, and moves on. I don't want that. I want what we talk about today to actually change how you behave tomorrow. So listen. If you have a pen and paper nearby, even better. Write down whatever lands. Now, 3 reasons this video exists. First, if what you were already doing was working, you wouldn't be here. You wouldn't have clicked. A new outcome requires a new lens, not more willpower, not a better budgeting app, not another spreadsheet. A completely new way of seeing. That's what today is. Second, your brain is actively working against you, and that's not an insult. It's a fact backed by decades of research. Daniel Kahneman, the psychologist who won the Nobel Prize in economics for studying how humans actually make decisions, proved that we don't lead with logic when it comes to money. We lead with emotion. He called it System 1 thinking. Fast, automatic, driven by feeling. System 2, the rational, analytical part of your brain, usually shows up late and mostly to justify what System 1 already decided. You didn't overspend because you're weak. You overspent because you're human. Understanding that distinction changes everything. Third, most financial advice skips the most important step. They jump straight to budgets, debt payoff strategies, investment accounts. And all of that is coming, I promise. But none of it sticks if you don't first understand why you spend the way you do. Tactics without self-awareness are just noise. Today is the foundation everything else gets built on. If you're still here, good. Welcome to Day 3 of 30-Day Money Fix. Today, we're going to read your spending like a behavioral fingerprint. Because that's exactly what it is. Let me describe someone. You make a decent income. Maybe not what you want long term, but enough. Enough that you know, rationally, you should be further along than you are. You've had moments where you got serious about it. Downloaded a budgeting app. Tracked things for a few days. Made a note to be more intentional. Maybe opened a savings account with real momentum behind it. And then life happened. A brutal week at work. 1 dinner out that turned into 3. A good deal that made the purchase feel responsible. And by the 22nd of the month, you're doing the math in your head again, running quiet calculations about what can wait, what can't, and how close to the edge you actually are. Most people read that and feel a pang of recognition, and then immediately explain it away. That's just how it is. That's just adulting. I'll do better next month. Here's what I want to challenge right now. You don't have a spending problem. You have a spending pattern, and those two things are completely different. A problem feels random, chaotic, out of control. A pattern has logic. A pattern has triggers. A pattern is predictable, which means it can be decoded, and once you decode it, you can actually change it instead of just feeling bad about it every month and repeating it anyway. Before I show you the framework, I need to address something. The way most people talk about their spending is in moral language. I'm so bad with money. I shouldn't have bought that. I have no self-control. That framing is not only unhelpful, it's factually wrong. Dr. Brad Klontz is a financial psychologist and associate professor at Croydon University who has spent over 20 years studying why smart, educated, high-earning people consistently make terrible money decisions. His finding: almost none of it is about discipline. Most of it traces back to what he calls money scripts, subconscious beliefs about money that were formed in childhood, usually before age 12, usually from what we observed in the adults around us. Maybe money was always scarce in your house growing up, so part of you still spends like the other shoe is about to drop. Might as well enjoy it now. Maybe you grew up watching people spend freely as a signal of success, so a part of you equates buying things with feeling okay. Maybe money was never talked about at home, so you never developed a conscious relationship with it, just a complicated, avoidant silence that followed you into adulthood. Those patterns don't vanish when you get a raise or download a new app. They follow you. They shape every financial decision you make, often without you knowing. So when I say you're predictable, I mean that in the most empowering way possible. Predictable means we can see it coming. And if we can see it coming, we can work with it. Here's the framework I want you to apply to your life starting today. Write this down. Every dollar you spend falls into one of 4 categories. Category 1, survival. This is the non-negotiable foundation. Rent or mortgage. Groceries. Actual cooking groceries, not delivery orders you placed because you were too tired to think. Utilities. Basic transportation. Health insurance if you're paying for it yourself. These are the dollars that keep you alive, housed, and functional. No judgment here. These are real. Category 2, status. This is where it gets uncomfortable, but stay with me, because this one is almost never discussed honestly. Status spending is anything you're buying, at least in part, because of how it makes you look or feel in relation to other people. The car that's slightly nicer than it needs to be. The apartment in the neighborhood you wanted to be able to say you lived in. The clothes, the gadgets, the dinner at the restaurant you photographed. The upgrade you got because you worked hard for it. Now, I want to be clear, I'm not calling you vain or shallow. Status spending is wired into us at an evolutionary level. For most of human history, social status correlated directly with survival. High-status individuals in a group had better access to food, shelter, protection. Your brain still runs that code. It still interprets spending on status as a signal of safety. The problem is that code is running in a world where $847 a month on status purchases doesn't make you safer. It makes you broke. Category 3, Soothe. This is the most honest category and the most invisible. The $34 Uber Eats order after a day that crushed you. The glass of wine that became a bottle. The Amazon scroll at 11 p.m. that somehow ended in a purchase you barely remember making. The new gym clothes bought incidentally, to feel better about not going to the gym. Soothe spending is not about wanting the thing. That's the part people miss entirely. It's about needing to escape a feeling. Stress, boredom, overwhelm, low-grade anxiety. Your brain, at some point, learned that spending creates a brief dopamine release, not just the act of buying, even the anticipation of it. Researchers at University College London found that imagining a purchase activates the same reward circuitry as the actual purchase. The late-night scrolling, the adding things to cart, the browsing, that's already medicating something. The buy button just closes the loop. And here's what makes this brutal. The relief is real. It works for about 40 minutes. Then the dopamine drops. Then you open your account and feel worse than before. So the next time life is hard, your brain reaches for the same solution because it worked last time, kind of. That's not weakness. That's a feedback loop. And most people spend years inside it without ever naming it. Category 4. System. This is the category that determines every meaningful financial outcome in your life, and it's the one most people have almost nothing in. Savings contributions, retirement accounts, investments, emergency fund builds, insurance that actually protects you against a real catastrophe. This is the money that works while you sleep. This is the difference between a person who earns well and a person who builds actual wealth. The Bureau of Labor Statistics consumer expenditure data consistently shows that the average American personal savings rate hovers between 3.6% and 5.1%. Not 15%, not the recommended 20%, 3 to 5%, which means the average household is spending 95 cents of every dollar on existing and appearing, and building almost nothing. And here's the part that stings. When income goes up, the BLS data shows that spending goes up at almost exactly the same rate. The categories shift slightly upward. The savings rate barely moves. That flat savings rate, held steady across income levels, is the fingerprint. You remember mice from the last 2 days. Well, mice got paid on Friday. A solid paycheck, actually a little better than last month. And for a moment, sitting there looking at that number, mice felt something rare, relief. Maybe this month would be different. By Wednesday, the grain was low again. Mice sat down at the table, actually sat down, something mice almost never does, and tried to reconstruct where it all went. Rent, yes. Groceries, more or less. But also 3 delivery orders in 1 week because work was relentless and the kitchen felt impossible. A new pair of shoes, the old ones were fine, but these were on sale, and mice was stressed, and it felt like a reasonable thing to do. A subscription that auto-renewed that mice had genuinely forgotten about, and a package that arrived Tuesday morning with something in it mice couldn't immediately place, ordered days earlier, in a moment that was already gone from memory. Not one of those things felt like a real decision at the time. They felt like coping, like living. That's exactly the point. A Duke University study found that approximately 45% of our daily behaviors aren't decisions at all. They're habits, automated responses to context and feeling, which means nearly half of what we buy isn't consciously chosen. It's triggered. And if you've never examined what triggers your spending, you're not making financial decisions. You're running a script someone else wrote a long time ago. Mice had zero system spending. Not because mice didn't care about the future, but because by the time the thought of saving even occurred, the grain was already accounted for, already gone. That's not a character flaw. It's a sequence problem. And that's what we fix. I want to spend a minute specifically on the people in this audience who are making good money and still feel behind, because this next part is for you. There's a concept in behavioral economics called lifestyle inflation. As income rises, spending rises at almost exactly the same rate. Most people assume this stops at some point, that once you earn enough, you naturally start accumulating wealth. The data says otherwise. The Federal Reserve's Survey of Consumer Finances, the most comprehensive look at American household wealth published every 3 years, shows that households earning $75,000 to $100,000 allocate nearly the same percentage of income to non-essential spending as households earning $35,000 to $50,000. The numbers are bigger. The proportions barely change. Why? Because status spending scales invisibly with income. When you made $50,000, a used Honda made sense. At $85,000, the lease on something nicer felt reasonable. At $120,000, the apartment upgrades, the dinners get pricier, the wardrobe quietly shifts. And every single one of those choices felt earned. Felt like the appropriate reward for the work you put in. Morgan Housel, whose book The Psychology of Money has sold over 4 million copies, makes a point about this that I think about constantly. He says wealth is fundamentally invisible. What you see is the car, the watch, the vacation photo. What you don't see is the person driving a 10-year-old sedan with $2.3 million in index funds. We measure success by the signals, and then we spend toward the signals instead of toward the substance. That gap between the signal and the substance is where most high-income earners quietly lose the game. And they lose it without ever feeling like they made a mistake, because each individual decision made sense. The pattern is only visible when you step back and look at all of it together. Okay, I want you to actually pause this video right now. Pull up your real bank statement last 30 days. Not the app overview with the pie chart that makes it look organized. The full transaction list. Go through it. And for each transaction, ask one question. Survival, status, soothe, or system. Don't filter. Don't rationalize. Just categorize as honestly as you can. Then add up the totals by category. What's your biggest category? What's your smallest? Here's what I consistently hear from people who do this exercise. The Soothe number is almost always the most surprising. Not because it's the biggest, often it isn't, but because when you look at those specific transactions, you can remember exactly what you were feeling when you made them. The DoorDash order on the day of the hard conversation. The thing you ordered at midnight when you couldn't sleep. The stuff you bought and then barely touched. You look at those and you realize, I wasn't shopping. I was coping. That moment of recognition, that is the entire point of today. Not the framework, not the 4 categories as an intellectual concept. That moment where you see yourself clearly for the first time and think, oh, that's what I've been doing. Because that moment of clarity is worth more than any budget template I could hand you. A budget tells you where the money went. This tells you why. And the why is the only thing that can actually change anything long term. Here's what I don't want you to do after this video. I don't want you to declare war on your Soothe spending. I don't want you to feel ashamed of your status purchases. And I definitely don't want you to try to overhaul everything at once. That approach fails almost every time, and the research on behavior change is very clear about why. Richard Thaler, Nobel Prize winner in economics and one of the founders of behavioral nudge theory, spent his career proving a counterintuitive point. Willpower is not a reliable mechanism for changing behavior. What actually works is designing small friction points, tiny pauses, that interrupt automatic patterns just long enough for awareness to kick in. So here's your one action from today. For the next 24 hours, before any unplanned purchase, anything that wasn't part of your mental plan when you woke up this morning, just stop and ask yourself one question. Which category is this? Survival? Probably fine. System? Even better. Status or soothe? Just notice it. Name it. You can still buy the thing. I'm not telling you not to. Just name it first. That's the whole action. One question. 4 options. Maybe 2 seconds of pause, and I know that sounds too small to matter. But here's the thing. That pause is where behavior actually changes. Not in the grand resolution, not in the new budget you make on the first of the month, in the tiny moment between impulse and action. Klontz's research shows that naming an emotional behavior, literally putting a word to it, activates the prefrontal cortex and reduces the automatic emotional response. You're not just calling it soothe spending. You're actually changing the neurological pathway in real time. That's not motivational talk. That's the mechanism. Name it before you buy it. Small, quiet, and the beginning of everything else. Tomorrow on day 4, we go one layer deeper into the why, because now you know your spending falls into 4 categories. But here's the next question. Why is your pattern the way it is? Why do some people default to status spending while others are deep in soothe? Why do some people hoard money and still feel constantly anxious about it? Why do others earn 6 figures and feel genuinely terrified every time they look at their account? Tomorrow, I'm going to show you the 4 money personalities and the specific subconscious money script running underneath each one. When you find yours, you'll have a name for something you've been living with your whole financial life. One of those 4 personalities is quietly undermining your progress every single month. And you probably have no idea it's doing it. Day 4. Don't skip this one. If you made it this far, genuinely all the way here, you just did something most people won't. You held up a mirror. Without flinching. That matters. Most people move past the uncomfortable recognition as fast as they can and go back to one-eyed Sunday app checks. You stayed. Now do the exercise. Pull up the last 30 days. Categorize what you find. 5 minutes. That's all it takes to start seeing yourself clearly. Then leave a comment below. Which category surprised you the most? Was it how little is going to system? Was it seeing the soothe pattern for what it actually is? Was it realizing how much status spending felt completely justified? Until you named it, I read these. And your comment might be exactly what someone else needs to see to take the same step. I'll see you in day 4.